here we go. Look at my way. Good, good, good. That's great. Fine. Yes, thank you. Yes, that's all. One more. One more. Sorry. Here we go.
What we've heard tonight, and again, the theme, social, digital, creative, what we've heard tonight is the power of ideas, right? We're all sitting here and interested in this because of the amazing things that are happening in an anything is possible world. As students, those of us who are of age look at you and say, man, you don't know how lucky you are. This is going to be so amazing what you get to do. But yet, in simplest terms, it all comes back to how we think, how we push ideas, what we do. I am very fortunate to work with am I doing this right? Sidebar, this way? Yay! I'm very fortunate to work with a terrific co-author on a project about how ideas are born, and we're doing a second book now. Our first one, The Creative Process Illustrated, was really born of that moment where we were looking at great work from students, Glenn Griffin and I, and as we looked down, I was amazed, and I just said, oh my God, don't you just want to crawl into their heads? And in fact, we said that this week. Don't you just want to get in there and go, wow, how do you do this? But of course, I wanted to go get a beer right after I said that, and I was done. But Glenn, who is a genius, said, no, wait a minute, let's think about that. Let's think about how we crawl into their heads. And we began asking students to think about their process and draw it and begin a series of interviews with them. And in fact, he did his dissertation for his PhD in doing that very thing at 3 or 4 different schools. But then we thought, let's take it up a notch. Let's go to writers and art directors and thinkers out there in the advertising world, our great data set that we have, and let's ask them about their process. Now, we know that if we're dealing with very groovy creatives, you know, you can't just say, hey, how do you think about that? Because they'll say, yeah, and the conversation's over. So we came up with a great catch-all, and we asked them, we sent them a big fat Sharpie and a palette. I'll show you this, and then I'm going to drop this. And this palette, and we said, visualize your process. And I knew a lot of these people, so I harangued them unmercifully. You know how I can do that. And I harangued them unmercifully, and we ended up getting quite a few. We sent out about 350 to 400 packets. That's a lot of Sharpies, by the way. And we got back about 90. And then as we got the book contract, we said, okay, let's cull this down. And we got 35, 36. I'm going to show you some. Many of you have seen some of these. Every time I look at them, I see something different. So visualize your process is what we ask them to do. Andrew, you're, okay. And in doing that same prompt, now think about when we get briefed on something. And when you go away and everybody has the same brief, but you come back with such extraordinarily different things. And we thought, man, what's going to happen here? You know, we didn't know what we'd capture. But we ended up capturing beautiful, metaphorical, real, day in the life of ways that these professionals talk about what goes on up here. Talks about their design thinking, about their ability to understand the community they're in, and sometimes it just says, you know, it's really this. We also got back a pretty remarkable set of, this is too hard to do, but I would push, just like I pushed Dave. I would push and push until finally we got something back. So as we go through here, you know, these are people I love also, so I may wax a little bit about them. So Chris Adams at Chiat is a writer, and notice that he doesn't offer any words in his visualization. He gives us a picture. And in this picture, you know, think about process pieces that we have going on in there. Quantity equals quality, right? An open mind, feeding yourself in order to perhaps capture a big fish. Fishermen in the audience will know that this is not just a hook, line, and sinker bobber. This is a craftsman, right? This is a fly fisher person who is really, he may lose the fish, but it's in that beautiful process of it. Rachel Howling, a writer in New York, who's a group creative director there. And I offer this to students all the time and say, please pay attention. She says, eat, do, try, use, read, think, think, think. Maybe I can read this better. Read, think, talk, do, try, use, write, throw away, write, throw away, write, throw away, write, throw away, write, 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 throw away. Whine, ignore, moan, and then delay, then write, then suddenly she's at the end of the process. Now, I said, you know, in interviewing her, so what happens there? And she said, every time I have to get to the whine, ignore, moan, and then I know I'm almost there. It's going to be happening. And in capturing these, we found some of those themes that happened. There were a lot of people who had to go through this in order to get there. There was a lot of optimism. I know I'm going to do it, but I have to get through some shit first. That's two, Sam. Thank you. Adrian Alexander, who is a bright young guy, oh my God, and has worked at Crispin and Modernista and is freelancing all over the place. And he gave us this long step-by-step, but we pulled this out because it's about being media agnostic. Here's a guy who graduated just a couple of years ago, and he's saying, it's the idea first, and then I'll start thinking about media. That was a big switch, a shift that we found in how people thought. Folks who had been in for a number of years would capture a media placement idea first and then push the idea. Adrian, as a young person just coming out, did it the opposite way. Nancy Vaughn, Congenic, Keston at Toronto, guess what? A creative director team of women. Woohoo! Looked at this and they said, we can't do it separately, we have to do it together. We're a partnership and that's how we think. And you'll notice here that, that the problem to solve might be solved by a CD, an intern, a senior AD, a PR person, a green guy, the guy they found in the hallway that they pull in. That as a teamsmanship moment, there has to be a lot of interaction and collaboration. Another word we've heard a lot tonight. And that something that was a bad idea at one time may flip and be a good idea just a few minutes later. That there's more brainstorming and that there's a time element to it. On that same idea that collaborating with people, Mike Hyde, who's in Boston also at Hill Holiday, looks at anticipation and about how to grab the brief and read it. But we loved this. Here's a guy who's been out for 5 years or so, who won't go, there we are. But he was really talking about fear. We saw that as a theme. Fear someone's going to understand I'm a hack. Fear it won't happen this time. Fear that I won't be as good as that last award I won. Am I going to do this? So we loved that he was able to actually articulate that and put it into his process. Simon Mannering, has 25 years as a creative and has done some amazing work. And I met him on Twitter. And he heard about the project and, suddenly here he was in my inbox saying, yes, I have to do this. And notice, and buy the book, available to you at Amazon for only $16-18 or so. But he was, if you look very close at this, the iterative qualities of this are amazing. It starts with briefing, concepting, strategic directions, and each one of these small circles really inform what happens as he goes through the process. And I said, Simon, is this every time? He said, every time. He said, I've been dying to draw it. I see it in my head. I understand that I have to go through these things. And within this, there's self-doubt, there's recrimination, there's celebration, there's joy, there's, fuck it, forget it, I'm done. I love that sense. And in the middle is kind of a manifesto about loving what you do. Hal Curtis at Wyden. He says there's a very small place where both the client, the brand, and the agency can play well. And you have to run all over the place in search of that. And even then, don't you love the look on the little turtle's face that, what's happening here? The idea that this is a playground of sorts, and that you do have to come prepared to play, but you also have to come prepared to find that right spot. This is really kind of all coming back to a little lecture moment here very quickly, to metacognition, and that is thinking about thinking. We used you'll love this, we used a method called interpretive phenomenological analysis in order to get to this. So when we went to an academic conference, they all went, oh yes, this was wonderful. But when you think about thinking, which is what we've been doing here tonight, how we leverage our own understanding of how we think and how we supervise that thinking, how we have expectations about what we'll be thinking and where we'll go. Andy Azula, great Andy Azula of the UPS, the whiteboard guy, and just an all-around terrific guy, gives us a process really of his day, but process pieces all the way through there. That food and ritual and who you talk to and where you sit, and then what you go out to do for lunch, and how you come back in, and how you process things, and then how you connect, how you're just like those ants looking for the food basket out there, because you're going out to some ritual places and coming back in to pull that in. And he again was joyful about offering that. If any of you know Danny Gregory, the CCO of McGarry Bowen, you know him as a very thoughtful, wonderful writer, creative director, a little bit curmudgeonly. And as his wife really had a tragic accident, she fell and slipped into a subway car. His family, he and his son and his wife, were looking for ways to heal. And he began sketching, journaling. He's a writer. And now DannyGregory.com is really this rich, wonderful collection of ways to journal, sketch, observe, take place, think. The design thinking that goes on there it's magnificent. And what he gave us was this idea straight from theory: preparation, incubation, illumination, and verification, which is straight from theory. And being able to pull that into, here's what happens on a given day with different personalities going on there. Notice that there's everything from the funnel to the judge to this, you're making a monster, to there's always a jury ready to do there. And again, I have this blown up large and in one corner of the office, and I always find these wonderful little nuggets. And I always love the don't kill your baby, but it'll be screaming every day. The wonderful magician David Kennedy of Wyden and Kennedy just took this on as a wonderful project for us. And this is all hand-inked. Maybe a few of you will appreciate that more than others, but hand-inked, rapidograph, gorgeous, beautiful. There was even some repro blue. Oh, it was just gorgeous. And it was Rube Goldberg-like, but it was also that self-deprecating, we don't know how it happens, it just does, right? And he lets it, and you notice that the hammer is hitting this certain writer who is penning Just Do It as Hood is looking on out of the window. Ian Cohen of Wexley School for Girls gives us, again, straight from theory really, input, incubate and connect, incubation and some positive explosions, and then output. But he gives it to us in such a way that tickle became my favorite thing in the whole book, I think. Tickle, which is a beautiful, combinatory, wonderful way of looking at each other and finding fun in what you do. That in order to do good work, you tickle. Oh, is that lovely? So that was pretty wonderful. Kevin Roddy, 30 years in the business, a Duck alum, 30 years in the business, great writer, was the CCO of BBH for quite a few years, is now off on a new big journey, and a writer, and gave us this. And he said, and I would submit that every day, every one of us go through this in multiple ways, right? And in doing this, we see not only kind of chasing and circling and finding out and how do I get this information and then coming back, but we also see the magic brick wall. We also see getting around no, chasing tails, and then it happens. Now, my great joke about this is that I wanted to use this as a t-shirt, and I said, yes, 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 and then we realized it would all be pointing down all the time. And so Glenn said, we cannot do that, Deborah, no. And I said, okay, well. But think about this, and think about your daily life. This is what happens. And here's a guy who's a creative director who has to make this happen kind of in 3D, right? All the time. And for students in the, for everyone in the audience, understand that any one of these lines might have been the one that got through, but it was that one. Things happen to make that come to a point. What this book has showed us is that, and we have lots of people now who really want to be in the next one. We're also going to do one about how creative agencies look in terms of process. But a couple of things. We got to the point where we understood that process right now is a trending topic because it's something that is not digital, right? That it is here and that we can begin to understand where those connectors are and where those possibilities are. It is also very remarkable that, again, there were themes all the way through this. Read the book. But there were themes all the way through this that let us understand that people hold fast to their process. And at the same time, we had a couple of people in here who said, I want to draw it again. Because, man, I have another chapter to this. That, again, it's evolving. That it's something very personal, very shared, but it's evolving. Love that. Finally, one of the things that we found that, again, it is optimistic. We are in such an optimistic industry of communication, broadly, journalists included. You can't get away from optimism. In the sense that, not the willy-nilly optimism, everything's going to be okay, but that, like a poster on my door, anything is possible. What a remarkable time. And that with the skills we have, I'm turning this into a motivational speech, and I promised myself I wouldn't, but with the skills we have, what happens there is that we plow through, we invent, we do things to get the job done and to do it beautifully because we care about the work. I love that. It's why I've taught for 400 years. It's why, all of you stand here because we love the work. We love the process. We love the collaboration. We love the stuff of it. We love how it looks. Whoa, look at the type on that. We love this stuff. And that optimistic view of we'll make it because we know we're going to produce something of worth is something, certainly the students, you guys should know that these folks who've been doing good work for so many years are out there because they believe in it. Even when it's a crappy day, even when they can't get through it, even when they hate the client or they hate their coworker. I love the work. I hear it again and again and again. And to go into an industry like that is a gift. So that's a thanks. That means I'm done with this one. But I am going to move toward my job as the bookend right here. Number one, again, the theme of social digital creative is something that we're all into and messing with, and I love that. And so let's keep this conversation going. Please tweet and keep up the content from this because we're going to capture this and not only do TEDxUOregon, but also, I think, turn it into some other content there at the school, and we want to have your input. And then also, thank you. Wow, what a great showing. I love that. Dave.